We're gonna keep that in there.
Can we not? Today we are talking about all the things that November brought us. A lot of things changed last month, like a jam-packed month as far as emotions and change and decisions and stress and emotions again. There's a lot going on last month for the both of us individually and I think as a couple especially.
We'll start at the beginning. For me, I was still at Disney. No, it's like it's not.
You just look so sad. Like I was still at Disney.
No.
Your mouth did that.
I was just working at Disney. I was just going to work and doing schoolwork. Not a lot.
Yeah.
For me.
I mean, me neither. Honestly, I went to work and I came home. I didn't really socialize. I had friends at work that people that I genuinely really liked, but we didn't go out. I was just going to work and going home. Sometimes I would work out, sometimes I didn't. I read and I took paths, and that was my life in Florida. And it was great. But that was it.
Yeah. Florida didn't really have much for me besides, I have family down there, but, with them being like several hours away.
Even before everything happened with my family, I think that November was the month that I started realizing.
But Florida wasn't it for us.
Yeah, I think that was when I started realizing, like, okay, I loved Florida for what it was. I think it was a great place for us to start. But a lot of the reasons that we were in Florida kind of became non-reasons. One of the big reasons was my family, my immediate family, right up until about the time we got engaged. Honestly, my parents loved Jack, loved that she made me happy. We're not awesomely happy about the fact that she was a woman. And for the most part, my parents were worried about it affecting my younger siblings. I think they didn't know how to broach it with the kids, and that was the biggest issue they had. My parents had already moved to Texas, and I told them straight up, hey, I'm not moving Jack to Texas permanently so that we can pretend to be roommates and best friends. That's what we did for the first 2 years of our relationship.
Yeah.
And
that was really hard.
It was really hard because, we lived at college and we lived together on campus. And we were dating, and it was open and it was free, and nobody really gave us any grief about it.
No,
for the most part,
we didn't have to. We weren't in a position where we had to hide our relationship and hide how we felt about each other when we weren't with Coda's family.
Yeah, my family loved Jack, and they always have. But it's not the same when you have to hide things, because that's not true happiness anymore.
That's not what anyone else had to do.
Yeah, so my older brother and sister were already in serious relationships. My sister was already married by the time we got together. And it was one of those, why can't I have that too? Why do I have to not hold my loved one's hand, but they can't? It wasn't even, why am I not special? It was, why am I different? Just because of this one thing. Like, that shouldn't make a difference. So in Florida, I didn't have to hide any of that because I was outed at work my first year of teaching there. Nothing happened because my school was very accepting, and my test scores went, rocketed. And so I was like, oh, okay, we're good now. They're not gonna fire me now, because queer or not, I'm effective. I was free at work and I was free in Florida. I didn't want to go from so much constant freedom to moving to Texas and kind of shoving ourselves back into the closet in a way. And another reason was Jack's school.
I'm part of an online college program in order to get certified as a vet tech. The goal was that I would stay in Florida so that I was able to do my externships at a veterinary hospital in Florida. And so there wasn't...
I'll go check on him.
I thought for the longest time that in order for me to complete my veterinary program, I would need to stay in Florida, and then after I was done, after the 2 years of my program, then we could move, or then we could think about moving, stuff like that. But since I hadn't even gotten to the point where I needed my externship, nothing is holding me to Florida. Like we could go anywhere And once I get to the point of my externship, then we would have to stay. But since I wasn't at that point yet, we could go.
Florida got me a great job. It got me a lot of sunshine. It got me Disney. It got me all these great things. But more than anything, it was the fact that my parents and my siblings were there. And that's always been the biggest thing for me. Once they moved to Texas, I was always planning on following. You know, my sister started having kids. I didn't want to be far away from my nephews. It would kill me to not be close to my siblings, watching them grow up. And that's just what I wanted. And Jack, luckily, fell in love with my siblings as well. And then once she met my nephews in May, fell in love with them too. So she wanted that as well. The last thing that really held us was the fact that we both had jobs that we loved. Jack loved her job at Disney. And I loved my job at my school. I loved everything about it. Did I have terrible days? Of course I did. Of course.
Yeah, it's a job.
Of course I did. Love you guys. But loving my job ended up being not enough for us. Loving our jobs ended up not being enough for either of us because we just weren't happy enough. Like, yeah, I love my job, but at the end of the day, I leave my job and I come back home. And we weren't happy with where we were living. We weren't happy with our lack of network. We weren't happy with our lack of family. We weren't happy with our lack of, like, for lack of a better word, village. You know, like, our people weren't there. I was missing my kids. I was missing my nephews. I was missing my mom and my dad. I was missing my older siblings, you know, and Jack wasn't getting any of that either on her side because her family was farther away, and even her family in Florida, we weren't able to go see them as often as we wanted. So it was just this matter of, like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like the work is great, but everything else just isn't satisfactory. I was thinking about privately, and then we found out that Jack was also thinking about privately.
I was thinking a lot about it because, like, it was like I knew for some time I had been thinking that Florida was just not the place for us. Like, I knew in my heart that if, like, our lease was coming up for our apartment, and I was honestly thinking of, like, Florida just isn't the place that we're gonna stay at.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a good fit for us.
Yeah.
You know, parts of my network are there, but it's
can't even take advantage of it.
Yeah, they're too far away, you know, and then they have their own plans, and, you know, we try and, like, get together, but then something comes up on our end or something comes up on their end, and, you know, it just didn't feel right for us to stay there.
Yeah.
Like, we realized as, you know, things started to happen in November, and we got the news about, you know, Coda's family member, it was made very clear that Florida was not the place for us to stay, and we had to come over here sooner than we planned.
My mom called me between my last class of the day and lunch, told me the news that, you know, my family member was really sick, and that, you know, some test results had come back and it wasn't looking good. And she was like, you know, I just wanted you to know. I didn't want you to find out and think I was keeping something from you. And I texted Jack because I knew if I called, she would be freaking out and I wouldn't be able to get to my class in time. So I texted Jack, hey, this is the news. Gotta talk when we're out. And I went to my class. I bawled my eyes out for about 5 solid minutes. I sucked it up and I went, all right, good morning, guys. Good afternoon, guys. And then I got home and Jack met me at the door of our apartment. She hugged me. She asked me if I was okay. I said yes. And she goes, so when do we leave? And I just started bawling. I had entertained the idea, but I was like, no, we're not gonna move just because of this. Like, nothing is certain. You know, this is insane. Like, we can't just move. We can't just up and move. Jack loves her job. She loves her life. She's not gonna wanna move. How could I ask her to do that? You know, we're going to a small town. I can't do that to her. All these things. And so it's almost like I thought about it for a second and then just kind of dismissed it and was like, okay, well, no, we're not going to do that. Now what do we do? How do we support from Florida? And then Jet comes up with this idea, like this, she was just kind of like, hey, I'm down for whatever we do. Like, this is your call. Which was so stressful because it's very rarely my call. Like, it's never my call, which I'm fine with. I don't like making the big decisions. And so she just leaves this huge life decision up to me. Like, hey, whatever you want to do, we're going to do it.
Like, here's a bomb. It's ticking.
Congrats. Figure it out. And
Peace.
yeah. And so I called and I just said, can I come home? Can I come home? Can we stay with you while we figure this out until we can get our own place and we can live there and be close so that when, you know, our family needs it, we can be there and it'll be great and it'll be okay. And they said no.
Yeah.
They said no. They were like, no, you're not going to move back. No, that's not happening. And I was like, I want to, you know, we've talked about it. And they were like, no, you're not doing that. We refuse. We will not allow you to stay with us. We will not let it happen. They point blank, they just shut us down.
Long story short, that wasn't good enough for us.
Yeah. It wasn't.
And we were like, oh, okay. So we're going to move.
Yeah, and we called the next morning. We called again. And I was like, listen, I'm coming home. We're coming home. Like, this is a decision that we made. And they're like, well, when is your lease up? I said, in 3 weeks.
Get ready.
And they were like, well, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do with this and this and this and this? And they started like listing off these things. And I was like, I know it's going to be hard, okay? They were like, all right, well, I guess start packing. We'll figure it out. And so we did. The real scary part for me was calling your family, because this was, hey, I'm your daughter's fiance. We don't know each other super well. I'm gonna take your kid super, super far away to where you can't get to her in under 24 hours, to this place that you're terrified for your daughter to go to, a small town at that, because my family member might be kind of sick. Maybe. Little. And
It turned out a lot better than we expected.
yes, that phone call, those phone calls were one of the first times I felt like I was failing as a spouse in your parents' eyes. Not in fact, but in your parents' eyes. Because I felt like they wanted specific, concrete, this is what we're going to do. Because that's what logical people do.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
My parents are more logical people. They're like, do you have a plan? If you don't have it, if this plan doesn't work, what's your next plan and stuff like that. And we didn't have that.
They wanted all the way to like plan like G. And we didn't even really have a concrete plan A at that point. But it was going to be 3 weeks, and we knew we didn't have any way to make that slow down. So we told them the day that we decided. I felt a lot better when we called your mom, because her mom, I expected more of an emotional response than the one that I got. And what I got was words of love and promise of prayer. And Jack started getting emotional, and instead of asking her to think twice or, well, why are you anything, she just kind of got on to Jack, kind of like scolded her a little bit, and was like, you got to get your crap together, because this is her world falling apart, and you have to be her rock right now. You have to be strong for her. And I hadn't thought of it that way, because I hadn't thought of myself as, I don't know how to say it.
Needing a rock.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of myself as needing a rock. As soon as she said it, I was like, oh my God, I need a rock. So thanks.
Thanks, Mom.
Thanks, Mom. And then we started packing.
You've seen the video.
You've seen the video at this point. From that point on, all we did was go to work and come home and pack. And then a couple of days a week, we tried to take Disney breaks. We filmed. My best friend came down. She lives in Georgia. You'll see her in a couple of videos soon. Filmed a couple of videos with us. She helped us pack. She gave me somebody to vent to and somebody to keep my mind off of things. And when she left, and I knew that was the last time I'd see her for a really long time, that was the hardest I cried of this entire thing, was when Texie left the house. That was really, really hard. And then we got here, and we've been adjusting ever since.
There is no day that has been a dull day, because even on our dull days, it's eventful.
Yep, it's chaotic here. Jet got a job.
I do. I have a full-time job.
She has a full-time job. She works a lot.
I do.
I stay home. My job, I'm homeschooling a couple kiddos. I'm homeschooling the people that I live with, actually. My job kind of takes care of rent in that sense, and part of our grocery bill. I'm homeschooling all day, and then once I'm done homeschooling and feeding and taking the kids to their co-ops and all that kind of stuff, doing the mom thing, I go and I help out with my family member. They're recovering very well, so I'm kind of just assisting with that and doing chores around the house to kind of help out with their stress level and things like that. We're not in the clear completely yet. There are still things that we don't know, but for now, we're kind of chilling a little bit. And it's busy. It's chaotic.
It is.
Our house is loud, but it's fun.
It is.
There's so much love. There's so much arguing. There's so much fussing and fighting because we live with children.
Yes.
And, you know, all that is...
There's also so much trying to find a house.
We're trying to find a house. We're trying to explore because, you know, I'm from here, but it's been years. You know, it's been almost 10 years since I lived here, and a lot has changed. So I'm trying to rediscover my old town, and Jack's trying to discover it for the first time. And then, you know, there's the towns outside, the cities outside of our towns on either side, you know, on all sides. And we're just trying to do a lot of exploration and kind of figure out what life entails for us now, which is difficult. There's so much.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. But it's fun. I think it's good for us.
Yeah.
So
It's a new adventure.
yeah. So November was a lot.
It was a lot.
November was a lot. It was a lot.
It was a lottle.
Like a little, but a lottle.
That's what November brought us.
That is what November brought us. Bye.
Bye.